A reduction in immigration, specifically international students, is resulting in a loss of revenue for Saskatchewan's post-secondary institutions. Sask Polytech is dealing with the ramifications of a couple rounds of layoffs. Both universities are seeing a reduction in tuition revenues as well. And for anyone dreaming of studying at a Canadian university or college, that may no longer become a reality. So what is the impact of all of this? What does this mean for current students if college budgets are dwindling? What does this do to the quality of education and the reputation of our institutions abroad? We want to hear from you. Are you noticing fewer international students on campus? Call us today at 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. Before we introduce our guests today, I want to share some of the excitement from the first week of school. CBC went to the University of Regina and asked international students why they chose this province as a destination.
Hi, my name is Dhruvi Jain. I'm studying BSc in Biochemistry.
Hi, my name is Mudra Patel and I'm a biology student.
I came from Rajasthan, India, to Regina 3 days back.
I came from Gujarat, India, but I have already lived in Canada before, but it's my first time in Regina.
It's exciting.
It's exciting, and I had my class, one of my classes, and it was really good. The teacher was very nice.
Well, it's been a pleasant experience. It just got cold today, but yeah, the people are very nice. They are helpful. They guide you. If you want, you can ask them, and they will guide you to whatever you want to know about there. Actually, my elder sister has already been here. So she has studied in Canada. She's been living here for past 9 years. So yeah, she told me everything. She guided me through. It's nothing they are not accepting students or they are unwelcoming to Indians. She told me everything will be fine. Just come here and I will guide you through. People will guide you through. And yeah.
What did you hear about coming to study in Canada?
So I was thinking about studying in Canada back when I was in India as well, because there were a lot of universities which I usually look at YouTube videos and see which preferences is good, and I saw a lot of good comments about the universities here. So I was planning on coming, and then I came with my mom anyway, and this was one of the universities that was on the top list because it has a good acceptance rate. I saw they have a lot of programs that I can choose from, and I saw a lot of good comments from other people that I asked. So that's why this university in specific I wanted to come, and I'm glad that I could study here. I got accepted, so that's nice.
Can you tell me about what your hopes are? Because you're both studying biochem. What are your hopes for your education and beyond?
I'm pursuing for research purposes, like a chemist, because I have always been interested in labs, and yeah, so I always wanted to be a chemist for many years now. So.
I am looking to go into medical, so I want to prepare for MCAT, and I want to see what I can do future in the medical field. That's why I'm doing a biology major, because it covers a lot of the areas that get asked in the exam. It's very nice. I was nervous about coming because it's my first day. I didn't know how it would be, but I enjoyed my day here today, so I hope it's like this.
Those are a few of the international students at the University of Regina reflecting on their first days in a new country. Our guests today are here to help us understand how a government cap on international students is impacting life here in Saskatchewan. Joining us from Regina is Haroon Chowdhury. He's the Associate Vice President International and Chief International Officer with the University of Regina. Haroon Chowdhury, welcome. Welcome to Blue Sky.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, thank you. And with me in our Saskatoon studio, we have Thevi Pather. He's the Associate Vice President International with Sask Polytech. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to be here again.
And then with me in studio as well is Patty McDougall. She's the University of Saskatchewan's Deputy Provost. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we've chatted about this before. I know, Thevi, you've been here before, and there was some optimism amongst our post-secondary institutions about a year ago. The thinking was that you may see an increase in the number of international students while other campuses had to reduce the number. What ended up happening? And because I've talked to you before, Thevi, I'll start with you.
Yes, when I last came here, we were optimistic given that we had seen an increase in the allocation of PALs relative to what would have had before. And yes, we were optimistic that we would see greater interest in Saskatchewan. However, since then, the government had introduced a series of unannounced to us changes which I believe seriously impacted international students' sentiment toward the country as a whole.
Towards the country as a whole. And so you're talking about changes from the federal government.
From the federal government. So subsequent to that, we've seen a drastic, in the case of Sask Poly, a drastic reduction in applications. But that was not only at our institution. We saw it across the country in talking to colleagues and reports from organizations and advocacy bodies. Overall applications were down. But what further complicated things was the very low study permit approval rate. As an example, Sask Poly historically had a 60% study permit approval rate for international students. This year, we're at 30%. So, and that's for the college sector. It's quite a drop. I understand the universities might be seeing a different rate.
Right.
And the biggest impact for us in terms of a downturn in applications had to do with the government introducing something called the SIP codes, which is instructional categories based on instructional programming, whereby our programs, in order for them to be eligible for the post-graduation work permit, had to align with those codes, and those codes align with labor market needs nationally. It's a bit of a challenge because our labor market needs here don't necessarily align with labor market needs nationally. So as a result of that, students were a little more concerned about whether
they'd get a job after they're done.
Afterwards.
So it's kind of at least three things that are affecting things. Patty McDougall at the University of Saskatchewan, what's happened there?
Absolutely the same. And thank you for identifying three things, because in some ways it's like a perfect storm, Leisha. So there's an introduction of the mechanism that Tevi just referred to as PALs, provincial attestation letters. And so a year ago when you talked to us, we were thinking about having enough of these PALs. This is what students need to go forward to the IRCC to actually apply for a study permit. So we were all focused on having enough of these PALs. And now we realize we have lots of PALs. Saskatchewan's done very well to get them, but there have been subsequent further incremental changes that Tevi is highlighting for you. Rules have changed, so the financial requirements of being successful in getting a study permit have changed. For USask, they extended what was focused on undergraduate students now to fully to graduate students, master's and PhD students. So we're seeing a further and incremental harm, changes to the post-grad work permit that Tevi is describing to you that mean that all sum up to the fact that this Canada is not a welcoming environment for people who wish to come to study, to get a degree, to move to Canada, engage, and spend a life in Canada.
I want to ask you how that's affecting the university's bottom line and how you continue to operate when you're dealing with all of these changes. But first, I want to get a sense of the story at the University of Regina. And so, Haroon Chowdhury, what are you seeing in Regina?
Well, thankfully, as my colleagues already mentioned, that we have collectively seen over the course of almost like 20 months now, severe long-term mismanagement of the international student program by the IRCC. While we understand completely IRCC is focused on strengthening the program for future sustainability, the pace at which the changes were implemented, coupled with ongoing inconsistent messaging, have led to huge damage of Canada's reputation as a destination of choice for the post-secondary education. These sweeping changes in the international student program began back in 2024 in January, I believe, on January 22nd, when IRCC suddenly announced that all study permit processing would stop and the new cap and provincial attestation letter would be introduced to limit the number of the international students coming to Canada. That announcement came without any clear direction from IRCC. The federal government did not work with the provinces or territories to establish a system. It took approximately 3 months before the new process was even implemented. The result is widespread confusion, honestly. Students are confused, Parents were confused. University, like post-secondary education sector was confused in Canada. In fact, IRCC staff seem uncertain and more confused than all other stakeholders. Because whenever we asked for any clarification about any policy, it took several weeks for us to get back any response from IRCC. We saw the responses of from two same student, same profile, same academic credentials, same financial supporting documents. One is getting the visa, one is getting visa in 6 months, and one was getting delay probably in week or 2 weeks, refusals. That was the mismanagement from the IRCC. While we understand, okay, I want to be very clear. We support all the positive reform. Canadian immigration have gone through several changes since 1967, I believe. This era for the international students program, we can call it dark era for the post-secondary education. The way it was managed by the IRCC, the way it was communicated, all the messages, series of the changes, student cap, provincial attestation letter, post-graduation work permit, several changes, spousal work permit, and the cost of living increase in the financial supporting document has impacted the Canadian international education reputation abroad, everywhere.
Yeah,
we are
reputation.
at the bottom of the list right now. We were at the top. Canada, I'm talking about overall Canada. We are at 5 or 6 number as a country of choice. We were at the top of the list after the years and years of the hard work of our colleagues across the Canada. I'm not saying only us, everybody in Canada was working so hard. IRCC has harmed the post-secondary education in Canada, and we are really concerned not only about the international education, honestly, the overall post-secondary education in Canada.
I hear anger in your voice. I do. And I'm wondering if anybody else in the studio with me here in Saskatoon shares some of that. Tevi, what...
I think I share Haroon's concern about the way in which it was managed. Now, I acknowledge that the government has a responsibility to manage immigration, and a Polara poll in April of this year indicated that the Canadian population had 60% had concern about the way the government was managing immigration, compared to 25 years ago, it was about 30%. So there was concern, and the government had to respond. And international students are a subset of the number of temporary residents who are in the country, and they had to respond. I think, though, the manner in which the changes were implemented has done significant harm to the post-secondary sector in terms of international student recruitment and our image in general as a welcoming place for international students. We have historically relied on international students not as a source of revenue, but as a source for talent, as a source for research expertise. And perhaps those students will look at other options now.
I'm curious how all of you know this. What are you hearing from students? How have you come to, other than knowing the numbers and sort of getting a sense from that end, but just are you hearing stories from students, Patty, that tell you that the reputation has been tarnished?
Oh, sure. So we hear from students who are attempting and waiting for, each of our 3 institutions is constantly working with students who have applied, who we've accepted. So we hear the frustration and disappointment through those conversations about how challenging it is both to be waiting for word on a study permit, to be declined in receiving a study permit. So those that's one source of information for us about how it is that Canada's reputation is being harmed. I would also add to that part of the conversation, Leisha, that Canada has taken a Canada-wide approach, but I think all three of us would argue today that Saskatchewan was actually very well suited for growth and expansion on the international student front. So because it's a country-wide approach, the application of the rules, I think Saskatchewan in particular, which shouldn't be characterized amongst all of the provinces as being in the same situation with regard to housing, et cetera, we've paid the price.
I want to back up just for a bit to help people better understand why we did have so many international students attending our post-secondary institutions. Tevi, you kind of touched on it, bringing this expertise. But Haroon, maybe I'll turn to you for that, to just give people some of that context, because I think in some of the reporting, there might be, you mentioned housing, difficulty to provide services for all Canadians who need a doctor, who are looking for rental accommodations, and international students ended up sort of being a focal point for as part of these conversations. So Haroon, just back up a bit and explain why we want so many international students at our universities.
Well, thanks, Lisa. First of all, I would like to mention, international students are not just a source of the revenue for the post-secondary institutions in Canada. They bring experience.
Because that's a criticism that has come. It is a criticism that has come up.
No, absolutely. Of course, everybody has a different perspective, and we respect everybody's perspective. But we need to understand, they bring. But why do we send our students abroad for education? I think we are mixing 2-3 things here together. Sometimes we bring the labor market demand. Sometimes we bring the so many international students just for the source of revenue. And we also bring a lot of other factors involve losing the job. Canadians don't have the access to the job. But we forget a reality that international students bring experiences, cultures, knowledge. They bring their different kind of strength, research, innovation across our institution. When their number drop, the opportunity for world-class collaboration and learning decline too in Canada. Canada is risk of losing its place as a top destination for bright, ambitious students. We should not ignore the importance of the international education itself. There are many students who go back after completing, and particularly Saskatchewan, as my colleague mentioned already, Saskatchewan reality is very different. We don't have any housing problem at the University of Regina. We have ample room available on our own campus. We seen, many international students, they were awarded the scholarship by the university, free housing, their visa were denied. If the housing was an issue, we were providing free housing to our international students who qualify for those scholarships, but their visa were still denied. So that means there is some other further factors are involved, and that's only thing we can understand is completely mismanagement of the program, of the international student program, and misunderstanding and misconception about the international students.
Patty, you are nodding along.
Yeah,
so
I am, and it's just wonderful for the three of us to be together, and we're so completely aligned on these kinds of issues. So here's one to consider. In a recent poll of Canadians, it appears that only 40% of Canadians ever travel outside Canada or the U.S. I would wager that number is even higher in Saskatchewan. So international students bring to our province and to our university campuses different worldviews, different experiences that help us to become world-class institutions.
Right. Tevi, go ahead.
I was going to say, as a polytechnic, our mandate is to serve the needs of our communities. We have 4 campuses, and we work hard to deliver on that, to support local industries, meet the local labor market demands. The province of Saskatchewan has a growth plan 2030, which calls upon for the increase in sort of migration into the country of skilled labor especially. International students offer a very viable pathway to meeting that goal. And Sask Polytech certainly values the revenue contribution, but also sees a positive in terms of supporting that goal, to adding to the skill base of the economy. And in terms of, I'll just be really quick, in terms of local labor market needs, shortly after COVID, there was, especially in the smaller communities like Moose Jaw and Prince Albert, great demand to bring businesses back up, especially the retail sector. International students stepped in to support that need, to bring back those services.
I want to ask you, how long before we start to see the impact of that in Saskatchewan? So if you have fewer students and you're trying to meet labor needs in the province, how long does it take before businesses are like, wait a minute, what happened here?
We're seeing that already. We've had to lay off some people because as we've seen an increase in the number of students, international students, in some of our programs, we've had to scale up and we've had to hire faculty members and support staff. But with drop in that, we've had to let go of some other staff, as you know.
And then what about the, people who are hiring mechanics or just any of those job vacancies beyond Sask Polytech?
We will see that coming up really soon as students who are having to finish up the post-graduation work permit are no longer a source of employment in the province.
Patty?
Even in real time. So our international students with study permit in hand are permitted to work a certain number of hours off campus, which many of them do. They're allowed to work.
It's not many hours, but it is
Exactly.
some.
And so they are engaged in the workforce all around the province, right? So we will be seeing that in the immediate term, and then in the longer term when we would have anticipated degree completion or diploma certificate completion, people moving into the workforce.
I'm Leisha Grabinski. You are listening to Blue Sky. Today we're getting a sense of the changes on our campuses in Saskatchewan after changes were announced to the international student program and just the ripple effect of all of this. So if you have thoughts, the number is 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. Thought we could hear from another student. We did head to the University of Regina campus, and that's where CBC spoke with Daniela Iyalo Moleri. She is an international student from Nigeria in digital marketing at the University of Regina. She's also a national student rep with the Canadian Federation of Students. She shared some of her concerns.
First off, I'm worried about academic because at this point, I have huge doubts if we'll be getting the quality of education which we assumed we were going to be getting coming here. Because coming to Canada to study, I know, the expectation is to get a certain quality of education. But right now, if I'm having to deal with 20 student long wait list, I'm having to deal with limited course sections, limited class seats, the lab rooms, limited computer, limited things like that. Now I worry for my education. Will I actually be getting the best? Will I be getting my money's worth? Because we are paying a lot for this. So does it even make any sense for us to be here? Because right now we feel it's basically like because of the cap in international students the caps in international students. So it's right now it's like we are basically cash cows for them. They want to milk us for whatever they can get out of us. But then again, it's supposed to be a mutually beneficial relationship. We're paying for this. We should be getting a quality education. But right now, my stance is I don't think I'll be getting that quality education, which I presumed I'll be getting right now.
That is one student from the University of Regina, an international student. In Regina, we have Haroon Chowdhury. He's the Associate Vice President International and Chief International Officer with the University of Regina. Haroon, I'll let you respond first because she is a student at the U of R and she's worried she won't be getting her money's worth. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that about any student at University of Regina experiencing challenges like accessing these kind of services. I also saw the news in the morning today. We did confirm students received their first question about their UPass on August 29. So that concern was already resolved. Regarding some other things, our team is working very hard. Our faculties, academic advisor across whole campus, students are our priority. We are here to help them and support them. And our team is also available 24/7. Our colleagues in student affairs, they are here to help them, registrar office, faculty members, everyone is here on campus to support our students. We understand that there is a frustration. As I mentioned before, in the beginning, all these things are basically the result of the mismessaging by the IRCC. There is a fear among the students. The current student, future student, they are concerned because there are a lot of other factors involved when students transition to a new country, new academic system is not easy. So anytime when there is a small barrier, something happens, students like now becoming more and more concerned, something will happen tomorrow. However, we are trying our best to support our students as soon as possible, as soon as we hear any concern from them.
I want to go to one of our callers. James joins us on the line in Regina. Hello, James. Welcome to Blue Sky.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
What are your thoughts on this?
Hello? So just to say, I'm an international student. I've been in Canada since 2015. I went through high school and then university. In my opinion, I think what's happening right now is part of a larger immigration issue, and international students seem to be getting scapegoated for it. I know that, on the surface level, it seems like something that's easy to see. It's out in our faces. But as far as what the actual issue is, it's not necessarily with the international student program, even though it does have its flaws, which were certainly exploited in Ontario and places like that. But I think the issue at the crux of it is part of something bigger. Now, it's a sensitive topic that, in my experience, everyone seems to be dancing around and no one really wants to talk about. And, I'll be the one to say it. I think what we need to introduce is some sort of cap on where people are coming from. Not that there's anything wrong with where people are coming from or anything like that. Just, I think as far as the messaging that's come across, people seem to be responding to a very specific type of immigration rather than the overall program itself.
How would you? That's a pointed question. A cap on where people are coming from. How would that be determined? Do you want to just elaborate on how you elaborate on your thinking?
Yeah, well, I think the U.S. has a percentage cap where the total percent of immigration can, up to a certain percent can only be from one specific place. I think if Canada was to implement something like that, it would certainly help address some of the issues. And beyond that, I think I might have to leave it to people smarter than me to figure out.
Well, I'm glad you raised it, James, and I'm really glad you called. Did you say that you are still a student at the U of S, or just you were previously a student at the U of S?
Previously at the U of S, so I'm now on a postgraduate work permit. And sort of just to touch on that, another issue that we're seeing, certainly I know for my friends, people who graduated around the same time as me, we're all sort of perplexed as to how we're struggling to transition from temporary to permanent when there seems to have been loopholes and other areas that were really exploited post-COVID that now seem, again, to be affecting the larger issue.
I really appreciate you calling, James. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's James joining us, originally from Zimbabwe, calling the show, 1-800-716-2221, or you can email bluesky@cbc.ca if you have thoughts. Patty, do you want to pick up on some of what he said there?
I really appreciate James calling in and raising these issues. And I actually think, picking up on something Haroon said earlier, because we haven't had a lot of direct communication around how decisions are being made on study permits, we are left to speculate. And I would say that what we can see are decisions that are being made primarily on financial grounds. And that then, to James's point, it is almost a de facto policy. So rather than coming out and being explicit about policy around countries and immigration, it's happening indirectly or tacitly through that decision-making process.
And just so that I make sure that I'm understanding, so in simple terms, people who have more money are able to come?
Exactly. And people who can easily and readily demonstrate that they have those financial means. Now, I'm not suggesting that we want international students to come and to have to spend an entire degree or program with us struggling financially. It is important to have the resources that you need. But, we pick up and detect suggestions from the IRCC about concerns around asylum seeking, concerns around fraudulent applications. But again, returning to James, the core point that James is making, if we need to go through a process where we would actually set policy around who comes to Canada, that's one thing. It would be transparent. Mm-hmm. But what's happening behind the scenes is that the decision making is actually doing just that.
Can you speak at all to any patterns that you're seeing then? Like, is there one country where more are coming from, and why might that pattern? I think you've talked about this already. Why that's problematic, but just curious if you're noticing some patterns.
Actually, you wouldn't even need to see a pattern from any one of our institutions. The data would be available on the IRCC website that students can see, that others can see about what the success rate is for applicants coming into Canada. So it's publicly available information.
Tevi, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, international student mobility has been on the rise for the last 2-3 decades. We are currently at close to 7 million globally. We anticipate that will grow to 10 million by 2030. So most students who come to us are coming to us for opportunities that they might not have available in their home countries because of significant demographic shifts like in parts of Africa, Southeast Asia, and we offer them an opportunity in terms of the excellent education, potential for pathways forward. James' comment about immigration plan, etc. Yes, there've been some challenges, and I think the government is responding to that. There's been large-scale consultation about the immigration levels plan. My armchair observation is that post-COVID, we had a number of students whose post-graduation work permit was extended. So it resulted in more students under the temporary resident category. We brought in more temporary foreign workers.
Mm-hmm. We did a show on temporary foreign workers just a few days ago.
Requested by businesses because we saw a decline in terms of the number of people returning to work as we got out of COVID. So it's an accumulation of issues. It's unfortunate that international students who fall under that category of temporary residents have been sort of, heavily sort of impacted by a large-scale change that was put into place by the federal government. But in terms of identifying regions and where we should put a cap, as a former international student, I would not be in favor of that.
Haroon, what are your thoughts?
Well, I completely agree with my colleague Tavi. Like, we will not be in support of putting cap on any region, because it all depends. Some countries, probably the students that are not willing to go and travel abroad for the higher education. They have opportunity in their home country. So it's absolutely, the door should be open for all the students. That's the basic. And I would like to mention the other thing that Tavi mentioned about after the COVID. If you remember, on November 15, 2022, when IRCC announced and allowed all the international students to work full-time to meet the labor shortage in Canada. So that was the time, basically, when we asked international students to help our employer. And they jump in and they step in. In fact, at that time, there was no consultation with post-secondary institution too, because we were concerned because we want to make sure students also focus on their studies. Mm-hmm. So all these things are happening without any consultation with post-secondary institution. So regarding the cap, we don't have any issue with the cap. However, we do have a problem. Like 1 week, there is a new rule. Next week, there is a pause. And then another change altogether. I don't think the system can work like that. We cannot continue with the reactive and ad hoc changes. like what we have seen during the past 2 years. Currently, like this fall semester, we have seen a long visa processing time, highest rejection rate in some countries, which is absolutely hurting us a lot for the future.
Can you, Haroon, talk about how it is hurting the university financially? Have you had to go through any layoffs, just like in a practical sense? How are you crunching the numbers and dealing with all of this?
Well, I cannot speak like specifically about our president will be able to provide more like information and updates sometime later on this month, because our last day of add and drop of the classes is September 15. At that time, we will have more like a solid number for enrollment number for our fall 2025. So that's why at this point, but again, it's not only about the revenue. That's what I mentioned before. Because international students, they are individuals, they are learners. I always consider them as a role model. Like imagine 17, 18, 19-year-old kid, when they leave their family, their parents, they're global citizens. They're role model already. They're contributors. We should not just see them just as a number on the ledger.
Patty,
Sure.
can you tell us how it's affecting you? And I know, again, you're nodding along.
Sure. And just to be clear to the earlier point, I'm not advocating that Canada institute a policy that's country-based. I am advocating for much better transparency than what we're seeing now. To your question, Alicia, we in the last academic year, 24-25, we reported that we had 500 fewer international students, would be almost all undergrads at the time. On the first day of classes, when we grab our snapshot, we can see that we are down another 500 international students. Now we're getting into a mix of undergrad and grad. And I would characterize this as these are not sort of one-offs on an annual basis. So we as a sector are going to go down and probably hit a bit of a trough before we are going to be able to recover. From a financial perspective, we have reported that in that last academic or fiscal year, we can attribute about $10 million, a loss of about $10 million with those international students. And again, all three of us are aligned on the fact that these international students it's not just about the money, but to be clear and to be direct in responding to the questions. So USask, we have not entered into a period of resultant or consequent layoffs. We're not there. We are looking at reviewing spending across the university, across the institution. We are looking at things in unique ways, colleges, schools, units. We are exploring innovative approaches to revenue generation and diversification of opportunities. We haven't touched on this piece yet, but I suspect USask is not alone in that we are experiencing an uptick in domestic enrollment. And while it's not a direct sort of swapping out, that's not how it works. There is some strength there in terms of increasing domestic enrollment.
How does same with you, Tevi?
Yeah, at Sask Poly, I just learned this morning we've seen an increase in domestic enrollment, and specifically Indigenous student enrollment was identified. Overall, when I looked at the numbers today, and our final numbers won't be available today end of the month. As of today, we are at about 38%, just under 40% of our enrollment this time last year. So we were anticipating a drop. We did a little better than our projection, but we think we're facing about a $15 million shortfall.
Wow. Your point about seeing more domestic students, I'm just wondering why you think that is. What do you attribute that to? Feel free to jump in, either of you. We're in the process of analyzing that. So first of all, international students do not displace domestic students at Sask Poly. In fact, international students are limited in terms of the number of programs that are available to them. Of the over 150 programs we have available, international students can only access about 50 of those. So certainly there's been extra funding for some of the health sciences programs. So we've seen record enrollment in some of the nursing programs.
There's been an increase in funding for early childhood education, for example. So you've seen increases there. And some other programs in the skills area, we've seen additional funding from the government. So those are all targeting domestic students. So we've seen an increase there, and Indigenous students specifically.
So a little bit more money from the province. That leads to my next question, because how does the provincial government fit into all of this? And is that a way to make up for any shortfall? What kind of conversations are you having with the province? I'll come back to the two of you here in our Saskatoon studio, but Haroon, do you want to comment on that? What kind of conversations are you having right now with the province?
Well, as I mentioned before, I cannot, at this moment, I will not be able to speak specific on these things, because our president will be providing update probably within the next 2 weeks.
On enrollment numbers, but
enrollment number and about budget and about the financial impact of the international students.
And okay, but Patty, are you having conversations with the province?
So just to set the stage a little bit, our province has been engaged in multi-year funding agreements with the post-secondaries. And we've come to the end of the first 4-year memorandum. We've had a 1-year extension on that, because the province also has to study and look at changes to the economy, not the least of which is tariffs and the impact of tariffs, et cetera. So we will continue to have those conversations about a multi-year funding agreement. There's no question in my mind that our government has been very involved in these conversations about international students, very up to speed, very in tune with the impact that it's had on post-secondaries, and also advocating on behalf of its post-secondaries when it comes to national tables and IRCC. So I would say that everyone at this juncture is doing their best to try to address these issues that we face.
Tevi, you would agree?
Yes, most certainly. While I can't speak to the details of the conversations, I'm aware that Dr. Rosia, our president, Dr. Malik, our provost, have been involved in conversations with the Ministry of Advanced Education. I have to say that the province has been very supportive, especially the Ministry of Advanced Education, in terms of ensuring that we get the necessary support to regain some of that credibility that we've had internationally. And we had a mission to Vietnam, which U of R, Sask Poly attended together with the deputy minister in the spring, to go back to a market and say, hey, we are open for business. We're still here. Come to Saskatchewan, we offer way more than other provinces. Look at us. So, yes, the province has been very supportive in recognition of the challenges we face as a result of some of the IRCC changes.
So what else can a post-secondary institution do? Patty, you mentioned looking at different revenue generation options. Like what would be an option?
Flexible learning. So thinking about the way programming is delivered to be more attractive to new students. So moving the deck chairs around within the institution isn't going to help in terms of new revenue sources. But industry partnerships, philanthropy, all of those things, and expanding how we think and deliver our programs. So flexible learning encompasses things like mode, place, pace, that sort of thing.
Okay. Debbie, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, certainly we always, even before these IRCC changes, Sask Poly is always looking for new revenue streams. We have a very successful continuing education department that offers programming to people in the workforce. We launched a couple of years ago our micro-credential platform, and we're looking at taking that abroad. We're looking at transnational education as a way. In fact, we're doing some small projects in some other countries right now.
Like what? I'm so curious
so
about that.
For example, we have partnerships in China where we deliver all of our curriculum with a credential issued in that country, but Saskatchewan credential.
Interesting. Yeah. Haroon, what about the University of Regina? What options are you looking at for revenue generation?
Well, first thing I will definitely echo what my colleagues mentioned. We are getting good support from our provincial government. We are working our university is also working very closely with the Ministry of Advanced Education too, and we were also part of this year Vietnam mission with other post-secondary institutions. We are definitely looking at different avenues for probably additional support from, again, the academic component, the creation of the new program of study that are available for the international students, because with the introduction of the SIP code that is required for the post-graduation work permit eligibility, University of Regina has created few new programs that will be available to international students, and that can help them to become eligible for the PGWP post-graduation work permit. We are also engaged with some partners abroad in 2+2. So students will be able to complete like half of their degree in their home country, and then they can come here at University of Regina. So we are trying our best. Our faculties are trying their best to find all different ways to engage with more partners and to get more students and have more like flexible learning, so students can have diverse options for learning and study abroad or inside Canada.
Can you tell me a bit more about that 2-in-2 program and the benefits of that? That sounds really interesting. So they stay in their home country for a couple of years and then they come to Saskatchewan?
Yeah, absolutely. We had these programs before, like a long time ago. Now we are engaged with few partners abroad, because what happened in the current situation, those students will have less financial burden too. Mm-hmm. So for example, a degree, we are engaged right now with the business degree. Students will be able to complete 60 credit hours in their home country. And then they will be able to come to University of Regina. They can complete 60 credit hours at University of Regina, and they can be awarded probably, it's up to their home institution, but they will be able to get degree from University of Regina. Similarly, we are also exploring the opportunity and some option. So probably students can take 2 years online from their home country, and if they will be able to get their visa, they can complete remaining 2 years inside Canada.
So some out-of-the-box thinking. This is really interesting to learn about this. Patty?
Could I say, Leisha, I'm glad that it feels like it's out-of-the-box thinking. That makes me happy. The province and these three institutions have been at this together for a while. So we actually have, and it's not just the three institutions, but we actually have a council together with the province, together with the provincial government, where we look at these kinds of transfer credit, articulation agreements, pathway programming, and we do it even in and between ourselves to better promote opportunities for students. So what we're doing is building on a really solid base. Same to the point that Tevi was making a moment ago about what we could do. So we now need to strengthen our brand, the brand of Saskatchewan and the brand of Canada. And we have a Saskatchewan Alliance that is made up of USask, University of Regina, Sask Poly. Tevi talked about traveling to... I was going to say the regional colleges. The regional colleges. Tevi talked about traveling to Vietnam. We have previously traveled together to the Philippines when we were wanting to recruit more nurses. Mm-hmm. We previously traveled years ago to Mexico with our then Minister of Advanced Education. So we've got a lot of really good base structures and organizational assets that we can build on.
Positive note to end on. And I guess we should plan to do this again. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't wait a year. I'll be curious to know how things evolve this year. But it's been a pleasure having all three of you on the show today. I've learned a lot. So Haroon, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Tevi, thank you.
Thank you. Good to be back again.
Yeah, and Patty, thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah, Thanks for the opportunity.
I really appreciate it. You can always email us if you've been listening today and you have thoughts. Feel free to email bluesky@cbc.ca. I just wanted to share a little bit from an email we got from Omar, who is an international grad student from Bangladesh at the U of R, who writes, "Things have definitely changed since I first arrived. At first, everything felt overwhelming, from adjusting to the education system to adapting to a new culture and climate. Over time, I've gained more confidence, built connections, and learned to balance academics with part-time work. However, I've also observed changes in policies and living costs, which have made life a bit more challenging for international students. I chose Canada because of its high-quality education system, diverse and inclusive environment, and opportunities for practical experience experience through co-op programs. I also valued the chance to gain international exposure while studying in a safe and multicultural country. After graduation, I hope to gain meaningful work experience in my field here in Canada, ideally through the post-graduation work permit program. In the long term, I plan to build a professional career that allows me to contribute positively to the Canadian workforce while also advancing my own skills and knowledge. At the same time, I remain open to returning to my home country, Bangladesh, where I have over 12 years of experience in the HR field, as this background could provide strong career prospects there as well. It's a bit of an email that came to us from Omar, who is an international grad student from Bangladesh at the University of Regina.